Did you know that Gregor Mendel, the humble monk we now call the father of genetics, once lived his entire life in obscurity? His ideas rejected, ridiculed, and forgotten for decades, only to have them resurface long after his death and completely reshape the foundation of modern science. This is the untold motivational story of Gregor Mendel, a man whose failures became the soil from which fortune grew, a man who teaches us that true greatness often blooms unseen in silence, watered by struggle and persistence, until one day it shines brighter than anyone could have imagined. Born in 1822 in a small farming village called Heinzendorf in what is now the Czech Republic, Mendel entered a world of hardship. His parents were poor peasants who worked tirelessly just to put food on the table, and young Gregor grew up surrounded by the harsh realities of poverty, hunger, and physical labor. From a very early age, he was expected to contribute to the family farm, and though his body was fragile and prone to illness, his mind brimmed with curiosity. He would stare at plants, insects, and the patterns of nature, silently wondering why some traits carried through generations while others disappeared. Yet in school, his brilliance was often overlooked, buried under the weight of financial struggles and frequent sickness. Teachers dismissed him as clumsy and unfocused, and though he loved learning, his grades were often average at best, leaving him with little encouragement. His family could barely afford his education, and every step forward felt like dragging a mountain behind him. Still, Mendel's determination carried him to higher education, but even there, failure awaited. He attempted to qualify as a teacher multiple times, sitting for difficult exams, only to fail repeatedly. Each failure chipped away at his confidence, leaving him crushed, humiliated, and filled with doubt about his purpose. People around him labeled him as unfit for academia, suggesting that he should give up and accept a modest life as a farmer or lowly worker. Imagine pouring years of effort into your dream, only to be told again and again that you don't belong. That was Mendel's reality. Yet instead of letting failure destroy him, he sought refuge in the Augustinian monastery in Brno, a place where he could blend spiritual devotion with intellectual pursuit. Within the monastery walls, surrounded by peace and gardens, Mendel discovered his sanctuary. It was here that he began the experiments that would one day change the world, though no one at the time could see it. He chose pea plants as his subject, not because they were glamorous, but because they were simple, easy to grow, and reproduced quickly. But make no mistake, his work was anything but simple. For over 8 years, he painstakingly crossbred more than 29,000 pea plants, tracking traits like flower color, seed shape, and plant height. Day after day, year after year, he recorded data, drew charts, and searched for patterns. It was grueling, repetitive work, often destroyed by storms, pests, or mistakes that wiped out entire seasons of research. Imagine spending years on experiments only to watch nature undo them in a single night. Yet Mendel persisted, driven by an inner fire that refused to die. His fellow monks thought he was odd, even eccentric, spending countless hours in the garden with peas instead of socializing. The scientific community thought his obsession trivial. After all, what significance could peas possibly hold? But Mendel saw something others couldn't. He began to notice mathematical patterns in inheritance, discovering what we now call dominant and recessive traits. His findings revealed laws of heredity that were not just about peas, but about life itself, the very code that passed traits from one generation to the next. After years of work, he finally presented his groundbreaking results in 1865 to a small group of scientists. He expected excitement, recognition, maybe even a spark of curiosity. Instead, his paper was met with silence, rejection, and complete disinterest. No one understood the magnitude of what he had uncovered. His peers dismissed his findings as unimportant, his papers gathered dust in obscurity, and Mendel felt the crushing weight of invisibility. Here was a man who had spent years battling poverty, sickness, and rejection, who had dedicated his entire life to truth, only to have the world shrug its shoulders. This was his breaking point. He questioned himself deeply, wondering if his entire life had been wasted. In his later years, he withdrew from science, turning his focus to administrative duties at the monastery, while inside he carried the pain of unrealized recognition. When he died in 1884 at the age of 61, he believed his life's work had been in vain. Imagine that, dying with the belief that all your effort, persistence, and sacrifice had amounted to nothing. But here's where Mendel's story takes its most powerful turn. Decades after his death, in the early 1900s, scientists stumbled upon his forgotten work and realized the truth. Mendel had uncovered the blueprint of heredity, the foundation of modern genetics. His laws of inheritance became the cornerstone of biology, medicine, and agriculture. What was once ridiculed now stood as revolutionary. His failures, once mocked, had become the seeds of a scientific revolution. Today, every student who learns about genes, every doctor who studies heredity, every scientist who works in biology or medicine builds on the foundation laid by Mendel's persistence. His patience and vision changed humanity forever. And this is the moral of his story. Failure is not the opposite of success, but the foundation of it. Mendel never lived to see his impact, yet his persistence created a legacy that time could not erase. His life reminds us that even when the world turns its back, even when recognition doesn't come immediately, even when your efforts seem invisible, persistence has the power to change the future. So whenever you feel overlooked or forgotten, remember Gregor Mendel, the monk in the garden, working alone, unseen, uncelebrated, whose failures built the fortune of science. Remember that greatness often grows in silence, and that persistence, even when ignored, creates seeds of success that may one day transform the world.